welcome back to Clarinus. My name is Michelle and today I want to do my May wrap-up video. May was a really incredible reading month for me. I started off the month by doing a reading challenge called New to Me May, in which I was only reading books by authors that I'd never read before, and it really spurred me on to read as many books as possible. And in the end, I ended up reading 25 books, and part of that was because towards the end of the month I did decide to fly to America and visit my family, and some of it was because I was, on a plane for a very long time. But anyway, here we go. The first book that I read in May was How to Fall by Jane Casey. This is the first book in her series about Jess Tennant. So this first book, it was so much fun. I really loved it. I cannot wait to read the next book in the series. I think it's wonderful and I'm so glad that I discovered Jane Casey in May. Next, I read a book that so many people have raved about, and I'd actually had it sitting on my shelves for far too long, and that's If You Find Me by Emily Murdoch. Now, this is a really interesting book. I didn't fall in love with it as much as everyone else seemed to have done, but I'm really glad that I did read it. Next up, I picked up a book that I'd bought for myself many years ago. It was a book that I was really excited to read. I really wanted to wait until summertime to read it, but I figured why put off reading a book that you'd expect to really enjoy, and that was The Summer of Skinny Dipping by Amanda Howells. Unfortunately, I didn't love this book. In fact, it fell a little bit flat. Oh well, can't win them all. Now, after that disappointment, I picked up two Barrington Stoke books. The first was Pale by Chris Wooding. I found it really interesting. It was a fairly quick read. I also picked up Tilly's Promise by Linda Newbury. I've already reviewed this on my blog. I really loved it. It was really fascinating to read and also incredibly emotional. I also read The Winner's Curse by Marie Rutkowski. Really enjoyed this book. The political intrigue especially was fascinating. I just found everything to be just really interesting. I loved the twists in the story. I just loved everything about it. Next up, I picked up Summer's Shadow by Anna Wilson. I'm really loving these books that I've been reading lately, which deal with the English settings in such a fantastic way. It's all just incredibly cute and sweet and a little bit heartwarming. I really loved it. Now, after those books, I kind of wanted something with a little bit more grit to it, so I picked up Above by Isla Morley. I really enjoyed the first sort of third to half, and then this twist happens, and I found myself not loving it as much partly because it goes in a direction that I hadn't considered that it was going to go in. So I ended up only rating it 3 stars, but it was still the first 100 or so pages were really gripping and exciting, and I had no idea where it was going to go. Next up, I picked up Bird by Crystal Chan, and oh my god, what a lovely book this is. I loved absolutely everything about it. I was slightly put off by the size of it, but honestly, by the end of this book, I just wanted it to be another 100 pages or so because I didn't want to let go of the characters. Now, I also read Tease by Amanda Maciel, and what I loved so much about Tease is how thought-provoking it was. It tells us this story about bullying in high school that everyone's heard before, but she tells it in this new way, which brings up new ideas to bullying that I just found incredibly interesting. I also picked up The Dark Inside by Rupert Wallace. This is a book that I won in a giveaway recently, and it was interesting. wish that I was more emotionally invested in the story, but I still really enjoyed it. And then I picked up this book. My copy is of The Gathering Dark by Leigh Bardugo, but most people know of it as Shadow and Bone, and I love it so much. Why did it take me so long to pick up this book? I loved it. I also read Take Back the Skies by Lucy Saxon. This is a YA fantasy book by a debut author who I believe is only 19. I thought it was really interesting. I kind of wanted a little bit more to it, but I thought it had a wonderful premise. I also read 4 more Barrington Stoke books. The first was Shadow Girl by Sally Nichols. I found it really interesting to sort of see like the twist that happens. It was really interesting. I thought Moose Baby by Meg Rosoff was really weird. Really interesting. I'm not quite sure what to make of it, but I'm still glad that I read it. I really am. I also read John for Short by Malorie Blackman. Malorie Blackman has to be one of my heroes, and this book was super creepy. Like, I didn't even expect to be like as creeped out by it as I was. But the level of creepiness was pretty high for this book, and because it was fairly short, I was really impressed by how much Malorie Blackman packed into such a short story. And the final physical book that I read in the month of May was Falling by Kat Clark. I wasn't expecting the ending that I got from this book. As for the other ebooks that I read this month, I also read The Weight of Water by Sarah Crossan, which I loved. I really loved it. I love novels in verse in general, but this book about a Polish immigrant and her mother who come to England searching for their father was beautiful. I also read The Falconer by Elizabeth May, and it was incredible. One of my favorite books of the year by far. I've already reviewed it. I will leave a link down below for that if you haven't already watched it. I also read Blue by Lisa Glass. This is a book about surfing, and again it's set in England on the south coast, and it's about surfing and a hot surfing guy, and it was such a cute summery read. I've already reviewed it on my blog. I'll leave a link down below for that. And the final 4 books that I read in May, I read on the flight to the US, and I read Lick by Kylie Scott, which was recommended to me by a wonderful friend. It was a new adult book, really it was quite hot, really enjoyed it. I also read Left Drowning by Jessica Park. I really enjoyed Jessica Park's Flat Out Love and Flat Out Matte, I believe. And while I didn't love Left Drowning as much, there were still elements of it that I really enjoyed. I also read All Lined Up by Cora Carmack. Cora Carmack is definitely a new adult author that I've really come to appreciate and respect, but while there were elements again of All Lined Up that I enjoyed, especially like the huge influence that Friday Night Lights must have had on this book, again, I didn't love it. And that is the same for the final book that I read in May, which was Take Me On by Katie McGarry. I love Katie McGarry's books. I really like Pushing the Limits, one of my favorites. Unfortunately, I didn't love it either. I only gave it 3 stars, and I'm really disappointed that it wasn't more amazing, but like I said, you can't win them all. Oh well. So those are the 25 books that I've read in May. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.